events coming up every Sunday, which is really exciting. So continuing the artist circle into February. Can't believe that February is already just around the corner. It'll be a lot of fun. So make sure to RSVP. All of the Eventbrites are up on our link tree. And then finally, if you did not sign up for this on Eventbrite, make sure that you send me your email in the chat so I can get you our free gift. And if you have the ability to, we would really appreciate a donation in support of our Young Curators program. And you can see that QR code at the link on the bottom left of the screen. All right, I'm seeing Fort Lauderdale, Connecticut, Palm Beach, Florida, Maryland, DC, another Connecticut, DC, Canada, San Francisco. Wonderful. It's so great to have you all here. And thank you so, so much for taking the time to join us today, and happy Sunday. Happy Sunday. So without further ado, I would love to introduce our guest speaker for today. So today we are joined by the incredible Leesa McGregor. Just to give a little bit of a background on Leesa, I'll share a bit of her bio. So as an unshakable optimist, Leesa believes in our ability to transform business and education for the benefit of humankind. There's a reason why entrepreneurs and business owners call Leesa the impact mentor. She's become one of the most influential new paradigm thinkers working anywhere in the world today. Her visionary entrepreneurial thinking, combined with over 2 decades of business building expertise, have captured the attention and respect of CEOs, authors, entrepreneurs, and industry experts from around the world. And in her career, she has started and grown more than a dozen ventures in media technology, renewable energy, personal empowerment, and online education. We are so, so grateful to have Leesa here today. I'm going to let her kick things off. And we have a couple prompt questions and things that we want to ask Leesa as well. But I'm going to stop sharing for a second if you want to just give a quick introduction to yourself, Leesa. Thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you so much, Maggie. Thank you. Well, so grateful to be part of this beautiful community. And I was thinking, well, I always ask, what am I meant to share? And I thought maybe I'd tell a little bit about my story. Because now when I look back and in hindsight, I go, it's pretty profound, this journey that I've been on to becoming a fearless artist. And so I'll tell you a little about myself. So I grew up in Canada. My mom was a change maker. She worked in the natural health industry and was always, talking about creating change. And she really taught me to be a free thinker. And, when I set out after high school, I went into college, I went into business. And in my 20s, I had done a bunch of things. I built a technology company, and I did all these things that, society tells you, wow, you've made it, you're successful, right? You're making the money, you have some level of status in your career, and you do all these things. And, that happened for me around the age of 25. And then by the time I got to 30, I was in a spiritual crisis, because everything I had sort of worked towards in my 20s suddenly just didn't mean anything to me anymore. It was like, is this all there is, right? I'd spent all that time building this career and trying to achieve things, and I just felt really unfulfilled. And so I would be in my corporate office in the day up in the ivory tower doing my work. And at nighttime, I would be at the yoga studio crying on my yoga mat going like, what do I do? It was such an unsettling time. And what was so beautiful about that time when I look back is that was the turning point for me, where I really started to question, what is my life purpose? What am I meant to do here? And I've always been very passionate about sustainability and people and the planet, improving people on the planet. And so I started to do a lot of journaling. I would go home, after yoga, and I'd write in my journal. And I started to write this question. It was like, how can I make a meaningful difference and contribute to the health and well-being of people and the planet? Because I started to think like that was my passion. I was passionate about health and wellness and sustainability. And so I started writing this question down, and I was like, it was a consistent question. And it was just something that kind of became my soul journey, right? It was like, how do I do this? How do I make my work meaningful? How can I make a meaningful contribution? And at that point, it was quite painful for me because I was trying to work out. Like I knew I had to let go of what I was doing. I had to literally abandon it because it wasn't on track. You know, if I was supposedly successful, why did I feel so unfulfilled? Why did I feel like my work wasn't really doing anything in the world, you know? And so it was a long journey. I mean, I will be completely transparent in saying that it was about 10 years of soul searching. I did different things. I started different businesses after that. But I would still go back to my journal. I would still go back to my journaling practice and say, you know, what can I do? What can I do to make a difference? And so then I started to really think about systems change. And I'm the kind of person, I've always had a bit of a futurist in me where I think about things and I see what's happening or what's coming. And I would look at all the systems we have in the world, you know, our education system, our healthcare system, our, you know, our political system, all the systems. And my intuition was like, you know, these systems aren't working anymore. And I wanted to be part of some sort of systems change. So then my journaling practice kind of morphed into this idea of writing questions like, how can I be part of systems change? How can I be part of systems change in education, in food, in energy, in you know, all these areas that I have interest in? So the long story short, when my son was born, of course, that changes everything as well, because now you have a human that you've brought into the world, and then you feel even more responsible. You want to do something that's going to help them and help create a better world. And so I started writing into my journal, how can I make a difference in education and how can I impact my son's generation? And I got very inspired by a fellow mentor here in Canada who talked about the idea of being a good ancestor. And he said, you know, if we could all reach a point where we, you know, realize that the work that we're doing in this lifetime may not impact immediately, but rest assured our work can impact future generations. And how can we be a good ancestor? How can we do work right now that will impact those future generations? And I got very inspired by that. I thought, you know, I'm past the idea of making money and having achievement and status. And like, that was just like, I was like, I want to do something that's going to impact future generations. Like I got so lit up by that idea. And so then I was at the beach with my son when he was 3, and we were just sitting there playing in the sand. And he looked at me, and it was like his soul was speaking to me. And he looked at me and he's like, Mom, what else have you got for me? And in that moment, I realized, wow, like I was this gung-ho mom. I taught him letters, numbers, colors, you know, all the academic stuff, right? Like get him learning early. And in that very moment, I thought to myself, why is it that we're not teaching our kids from a really early age what compassion means, what empathy means, what gratitude means, what diversity means, right? Growing up in Canada, diversity is a big thing. You know, when I think back to our education, that was a really big part of what we learned. And so I got this idea to rewrite the alphabet. I thought, well, instead of A is for apple, B is for ball, C is for cat, what about A is for abundance, B is for bravery, C is for compassion, D is for diversity, E is for empathy. So I wrote this list of alphabet words and I came home, I shared it with my husband. My son was already reciting the words. He'd already memorized them. He was all excited. And my husband goes, Leesa, he nearly fell off his chair. He goes, do you realize what you've just done? You've rewritten the alphabet. And he's like, you need to do something with this. And so I decided to write a book. I thought, well, I'd written a previous children's book and I really loved the process of the creative process. And I thought, okay. So 2 months later, a new alphabet for humanity was born. And little did I know what was going to happen. You know, for me, I had never aspired to be a children's author. I never wrote down in my journal that I wanted to be a children's author. I wrote a children's book because I wanted to change the world. And I get really emotional when I think about it because I feel like what's in your heart is there for a reason. And for me, I wanted so badly in my life to make a change. You know, I wanted to create some sort of change. I felt like, you know, if I'm going to dedicate my life to anything, that's what I want it to be. And I can't even explain to you when I was writing the book, the creative force that took over me. And I share with people that I don't even remember writing the book. It was like the energy just came through my body and the words came through the body and the sentences came through my body. And it was just, there was like tears. There was some creative insecurity too. Like I would call Kiki and I was like, okay, I'm kind of stuck on this piece. You know, she was my creative director with all of that. You know, she was listening behind the scenes. But I pushed through the insecurity. I said, you know, this is something, you know, this is something. And so it took me about 2 months to do the book, and lots of tears, like just the way it came together was what made me cry. And so then we launched the book, and I was kind of perplexed because I started to go to local retailers, like little bookstores and gift stores, and I would sell them give them a handful of books to sell. And then they would call me back the next week and they're like, well, we're out of books. And can we get some more? And I'd say, oh, okay, sure. You know, I was like, oh, I was kind of excited. I was like, oh, this is great. And I'd also launched a Kickstarter campaign online, by the way. So there was that. We got some initial funding to support the project, and that was amazing. So I knew I was onto something. So anyway, these retailers started calling me back every other day. And in fact, one of my retailers in Australia, this is an interesting story about being really creatively insecure. So they put my book in the front window when I first gave them the book. And the next week I walked past the shop and I didn't see the book in the window. And I got really insecure because I thought, oh, maybe they decided they didn't want it, or maybe, you know, maybe they just, and so I was like, what happened to the book? So my husband and I went into the store, and I was kind of nervous, and I went and I said, oh, is everything okay? Like, I noticed the book was in the window. It's not in there anymore. And they go, oh no, we're sold out of books. We need more. And so then COVID came, and I was faced with a choice. I was like, what am I going to do now? Like, the retailers are shut down. So we launched online, and within 4.5 months, we did $1 million in sales. And I was like, the number doesn't really mean anything to me. It's just a measurement of what happened. It's like we started a movement. People from all over the world started to buy the book. And I was going, wow, like, this is profound to me. This is absolutely profound. Like I said, I never wanted to be a children's author. That wasn't part of the plan. And I would get grandmas writing in from Alabama. I would get teachers writing in from Italy. I had people writing in from Australia. I still to this day, every week. And I never thought in a million years, you know. And so I get really emotional because it's just, I'm actually in a process now where I've slowed down enough because the business grew so fast. And we were, as Kiki knows, we were operationally very challenged last year to keep up with it all. And I'm finally coming back down to my groundedness. And it was a very difficult year, I will be honest, just trying to manage the operations all of a sudden of this publishing company that you start, you know, and it's been really hard. And it's also been like such a testament to what I've always said, which is that we're never too small to make a difference, and we can, and what's in our heart is there for a reason, and we have to get it out there. And as creators and artists, what I've learned is that art is the change. Art is the thing that allows us to connect with humans, with the heart. It pierces through everything else, you know. And this book is not like, I mean, it's a lesson. It's literally an entire heart-based education in a book. And I just happened to disguise it with art, you know. And so that's what I'm most proud of. I'm proud of the fact that I was able to get a message out there in the form of a children's book that's resonated with people's hearts, and it's bringing people together, and it's become a community tool. And so, you know, grandmas will buy 10 books at a time, and they give them out to everyone in their community, their friends and their family, and the teachers and educators are buying the books for classrooms now. And for me, this is just the most humbling thing I've ever done. I mean, I'm going to be 45 this year, and I never thought in a million years that this would happen. And so I just speak very passionately now. I'm so passionate about supporting creators, because we all are creators. We're here to create. We're here to create in whatever form that is. If you're a vegan baker, if you're you know, there's so many forms of creativity, and I think we just have to express what's in our heart. And I never want to stop now. I mean, I'm just, I can't even tell you. I mean, we just launched this, we're about to launch the second book. I'll give you a little sneak preview. So it's called I Can Change the World. And this was the book that I was inspired to write after what just happened for me. And I thought, gosh, we got to let the kids know from an early age, they're never too small to make a difference. Right. And how do we instill that sense of community and contribution in our kids from an early age, so that they realize that life is just not about them. You know, that's the biggest thing I've learned about life purpose, is that, you know, if we're just so focused on ourselves, we're never going to feel fulfilled. Our purpose is to be of service to each other. It's about humanity. And, you know, my husband and I always say that, gosh, we could write a PhD dissertation on life purpose, right? And so I really hope for the young generation now that we can instill these values more and more, you know, to really ingrain that. And I've said a lot for a while now that I think my next talk is going to be on, you know, the IQ versus the EQ. And it's still perplexing to me that the education system focuses so much on the IQ aspect, academic achievement, grades, knowledge. Meanwhile, the only thing that really predicts our success and happiness in life is our EQ, right? And so I could talk for hours, and I realize that we want to, you know, kind of keep to time, but I guess, yeah, just my parting comments on my sharing here is that I just feel like we can make such a change, and we're in a time in history where we have an opportunity to do that. We have an opportunity to bring our work into the world, to you know, to bring people together. That's so important right now, bringing people together, bringing us back to unity, bringing us back to our hearts. And I think that's all I have to say for now.
Thank you so much, Leesa. Just your energy, and I'm echoing everything everyone's saying in the chat, your authenticity. It's very inspiring and really exciting to be here. We have a couple prompt questions for you that I will pull up on the screen that we'd love to hear your answers to, but I want to encourage everyone as well. Please feel free to use the chat to ask questions, and between these questions I have on screen, we'll get to those as well. So feel free to drop your questions in the chat, or also you can come off mute if you have a question that you want to ask. The first one I have up here, give me 1 second to pull it back up, is what does it mean to, quote, speak into the quantum?
Oh, I like that one. So this is a conversation that Kiki and I love to have. You know, I grew up with a mom who's very spiritual. For some of you who are on the line, you know, Jerry Nestor Hicks, right? Abraham. I mean, she took me to see Jerry Nestor Hicks when I was 16. And so I've always had a metaphysical understanding of life. And I've always believed, you know, when we set an intention, there's so much power behind that. And I've just proven that to myself with this work, that when we set an intention and we call it, we speak it into the quantum. So for me, that's about setting an intention about what it is that you're desiring to create, desiring to do. And I think it goes beyond goals. I think it's like a heart connection. And when we do that, magic happens. You know, again, I'm really not, I don't want to share like numbers for the sake of some sort of financial accolade or anything. But when I started this project and I could see that the book was taking off, I wrote in my journal, you know, how could I sell $500,000 worth of this book? Wouldn't that be amazing? And I was speaking that into the quantum, and I started telling my friends, well, you know, people love this book so much, I want to get it out there. And I just couldn't imagine that would happen, you know, and especially as a self-published author. I mean, most times people will go to a big name publisher, right? And then you got to spend all that time getting the contract with the New York Times, you know, the publishing house. And I did it differently. I did it myself. And so in answer to your question, for me, speaking into the quantum is planting a seed for what you desire to happen in the future. What do you desire to manifest? What I'm calling into the speaking into the quantum right now is systems change in education. I'm saying to myself, how do I get this book into every classroom? How do I get this book into learning curriculums around the world? That's my next part of this journey. And that to me is the most fulfilling part. So speaking into the quantum is really about setting an intention for what you desire and getting past your own limitations and going, well, that's impossible. It's not impossible. And, there's a saying that says, the universe conspires in your favor. And I do believe that, again, what's in our heart, if we really have a heartfelt intention for something and we're writing that down, I do believe in the power of writing things down. I think that's incredibly important. And, magic happens. And Kiki and I've had these conversations many times. We speak things into the quantum, and the next week it's like, oh, can you believe what just happened? And it's fun. I see it as a kind of a magical and fun way to experience life.
Thank you so much. That's so exciting, and definitely something I'm gonna start doing a little bit more. I see in the chat we have a question from Zia. I apologize if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly. How did you reach the global audiences? And then as a follow-up, you said your next talk, like where do you speak?
Thank you. So the answer to how did I reach global audience? I did advertising. So I started, I was very, when it comes to marketing, and I'll just share this, I've been in marketing for about 20 years. And I've always seen marketing very different. It's like, to me, marketing is not like buy my stuff. Marketing to me is a vehicle for change. That's how I choose to use marketing. How do you get your message out there in a way where you're speaking why you're doing this, right? Like you speak about the why. So for me, I got really solid on the marketing. So when you go to my website, you'll see, like, I talk about my story and my impact. Like what do I desire to create in the world? Why did I create this? And so when we did our advertising, we spoke a lot about that. I shared a video with my son, and it was just like, here's why I'm creating this. And that really spoke to people. They said, I resonate with this. And it was this new conscious language for children. So they were excited about it. So we did that. We did Facebook and Instagram advertising, and that took off really fast. And people started to share and like and comment. And I will say it's been a challenging journey because things change in the advertising world. The algorithms change, the costs change. It's been a real challenge for us to maintain. And now this year, I'm looking at more ways that I can approach grassroots, right? Because the advertising is good. You can get the message out, but of course, it's very expensive. And for me, that takes a lot of money out of the business that I could be using to hire people, as an example. So, so now I'm looking at different ways to, I want to speak to more nonprofits that are working in early education and more schools, and find different partners that can help me, and we can support each other. So in answer to your question, I'm looking at different ways this year. Advertising does work for sure. It does take a bit of time to work out how you get your message out there effectively. But that's how we did it. And just remind me the second question.
Just wondering about like where you speak, like doing public speaking and things like that.
Good question. I used to speak a lot. I used to run workshops, and I had a marketing company for a while. I have not been as active. And this year, my intention is I'd like to create a TED Talk. Regardless of whether I get on a TED stage, I want to really speak my message and my mission. So my intention right now is to look at podcasts, like how can I be interviewed on podcasts? So I'm going to have my team do some outreach and find different parenting and places that I can speak. I'm going to try and do some virtual story time events with nonprofits and different organizations that are interested in the book and the mission. So that's my intention for this year, is really to, for me, I always say you have to get creative, especially if you don't have a large budget. My husband and I have funded all this ourselves. We did get some friends and family supporters. So we have investor loans. We have friends and family loans, basically, for inventory and things. But it's been a lot. And I've always said, guerrilla marketing, you have to get really creative. And so for me, just doing, outreach, just contacting people, sending emails. Yeah, I'm actually in my own process right now of working out how I'm going to get the message out in this next phase. So, but I'm also very creative, so I'll find a way.
Awesome. Thank you. I have another question in the chat here before we go to our next prompt. What support or team roles did you need to make this happen?
Oh, that's a painful one to answer. I became the children's author, logistics manager, operations manager, customer service lady, creative director, editor in chief. I burnt myself out. It was very, very exhausting. So I've learned that if I had my time over again, I would have hired more people. I did have two people this last 2 years supporting me in customer service and marketing, but I'm looking to expand the team and get a lot more creative about that, because what I've realized, and this is actually a really important point for creators, there are two aspects to your work. There is the creation of your work, and then there's getting it out there, and the operations. And for me, the operations is a big thing now. And so, my lesson has been, don't try to do it all yourself. And I'm really, really looking to find more support this year to just make sure that I'm not doing everything in the business. I think it's necessary, though. I will say at the beginning, you kind of have to be in everything to really work out what it is that you're doing. But then it reaches a point where you have to find the right people to support you and delegate. And that's especially important for me because I have a young son. My son's only 6, and I want to spend a lot of time with him. So very important point for creators, for sure. You need the support.
Mhm. Thank you. And on that, the topic of burnout, that's something that I was actually hoping to bring up and also pose to the group as a whole. I think, especially right now with the pandemic and everything going on, a lot of artists and creatives are feeling very burnt out or just having trouble kind of reigniting that creative spark. So Leesa and anyone in the audience, if you have any tips, any tricks, anything that you do to try to reignite that spark and try to recharge and reset that burnout and move forward with your projects, we'd love to share with the group.
Yeah, I've got a story behind that. So Kiki and I we were doing our weekly calls, and we were setting goals, and I'd get on the phone with Kiki the next week, and I'm like, well, I didn't quite do what I said I was going to do last week. I just found myself sleeping until 9 o'clock, and she finally just said to me, Leesa, I think you need to stop. I think you need to slow down. She's like, I can see it. She goes, with all love and respect, sister, you really need to slow down. And it was true. I mean, I was fried. I did take on a lot. The business grew so fast. And so I had to slow down. And I will say it was just the best thing that I could have done. So I just took time out as much as I could, just kind of like maintained a baseline, and I just slept. I actually slept long hours for a couple of months. And I just kind of let myself kick back and, just tried to focus more on my health. I've always been pretty, like conscious of health, eating healthy and vitamins and things like that. But just, I realized, self-care is essential. And I did lose the creative spark. And that was actually quite scary for me, because I got scared. I thought, whoa, what happened? I'm so creative. And all of a sudden I have no ideas. Nothing is coming in anymore. And it was because of that. So I think that self-care is essential for creators. And the other thing I realized was, what's the rush? What's the rush? Why are we rushing to get something out there? Why are we rushing? And, I got so wrapped up in the rush of, now I've got to get the next book out there tomorrow. It has to be done. And then I realized, wait a minute, this is my life's work. What if it takes me another 5 years to get the next book out? What does it matter? This is your life's work. And so I think that, like, if you come from a place of wisdom, if you really listen to yourself, what is the rush, And so I do think self-care is essential for creators. I think there's some people that can just go, and that's how they're built. But I think for creators, if we don't slow down, we do cut off that creative connection. That's definitely been my experience. And I think just slowing down and what I've also realized is that it doesn't go away. Like, your heart mission does not go away. Even my husband, being really honest with you guys, he goes, I'm surprised you're getting back on the horse, Leesa, because you've been like, I had so many operational challenges last year. I will not go into it on this call. It was one of the hardest years of my life. It was one of the hardest years of my life. And it was one of the most fulfilling years of my life. It was just pretty wacky what was going on for me. And he's like, you're back on the horse again. He's like, you're ready to trot along. And I said, like, how could I stop? how could I stop? I couldn't stop. Like, you can't stop when it's in you, when it's in your heart, and you have to keep going. This is for the sake of other people now. It's not about you anymore. And that's what happens. I think the art takes on its own life form, you know? So yeah, I've learned self-care is essential. I got a little animated with that. I guess maybe I need to write a book about that, self-care for creators.
Yes, it's definitely super, super important. Thank you for sharing that. If anyone else has tips that they want to share, things that you do to kind of combat against any burnout and reignite that spark, feel free to use the chat. I'm going to go back to our prompts up here for a second. Our next one that we have for you, Leesa, is what does zone of genius mean and how do we find it?
Here's another book I'm going to write. How to work in your zone of genius as a creator. So the biggest lesson I learned this year was that I was doing a lot of work that was not in my zone of genius. So I realized, you know, and again, I'm actually not being hard on myself, because I was doing the best I could last year with how fast the business grew. Zone of genius is, what are you amazing at? What comes so naturally to you that it's like you get out of bed and like it's just natural, right? And it's your superpower. And what happened for me is I got so steeped in the operations of my business, I started to get really down. I was like, I'm just exhausted. I can't do this. And it was like a double down, because it was the energy that it took me to run everything, all the operations, was very tiring, because it wasn't my zone of genius. And even my husband, he, like, really behind the scenes, he's like, is it really that hard to ship some books to a different warehouse? I said, it's really hard. I can't do it. Like, it was just so overwhelming for me. And I got on the phone actually last week with a girlfriend, and I was kind of bringing her up to speed with what had happened in the business. She said, you know, and I said, I've got all these operational challenges. We're getting past them now. And she said, Leesa, there's no one that is more uniquely qualified to solve these business problems, because your zone of genius is what's required to take the business to the next level. And so, you know, because speaking comes naturally to me, connecting with humans comes naturally to me, creating books comes naturally to me. So if I just spend my time doing that and have someone else take over the other things, I'll be in a great place. And so I've learned a lot that I actually think we're doing ourselves a real disservice if we continue doing work that we don't like. And that sometimes, you know, but we need the contrast as well. So I never would have known that I didn't want to do that if I hadn't have experienced doing it. So I think it's a process. It's an exploratory process where you do figure out what it is that you're great at. And then, you know, you just find other people to take care of all the other pieces. And it's challenging when you're on a budget. I mean, we've bootstrapped our business, you know, and it's you have to really be careful with how you make financial decisions. However, I do have a lot of clarity now that, you know, the best thing you can do is just find out what you're amazing at and just do that thing and have everyone else support you in all the other areas. And how do you find it? You just find it by just going, what do I love doing? What lights me up? What feels so light and easy? It's so easy that you go, it's just easy, you know? And I think and there's also different tests you can take, like Strengths Finder. I found that was a good one, Strengths Finder. There's lots of different personality type tests, things like that can kind of give you guideposts to really working out what your zone of genius is. But I think that's the best way to find it.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Another question we have here for you. How do we take an idea about making the world a better place and make it into a reality? How do you execute on the plan?
Well, the first thing you do is you write it down in your journal. What's the change you want to see in the world? And for me, again, this whole experience has been really profound. I had no idea that an idea would drop into my head from the ether. That's honestly how I feel about this. I had that eureka moment at the beach with my son to write this book. We now have almost 100,000 copies distributed around the world, and we've only just begun. that started with writing down in my journal what I wanted to create. And like I said, for me, this is about systems change. I'm very passionate about the new earth, right? I'm passionate about renewable energy, sustainable food, sustainable, just how do we recreate our systems in our world so that they are of, benefit to people on the planet. So, and I've always said, like, go big, like think big, I mean, I'll give you an example. And I don't say this out of my, my own accolade, but another example of why I think it's so important to write it down is because it's almost like you're sending out a signal to the world. And I wrote down, how can I create a book? Or how can I create something that will impact future generations? And I now have grandparents that write into me saying, this book is going to be handed down in my family. This is my go-to book. I give this to every baby shower, every gift. The teachers are now saying, we're implementing this in our curriculum. That's the future generations piece. I had no idea that was going to happen. I had no idea how that was going to happen. So I only share that with you to really make the point that it started with just me writing this down in my journal. I want to be part of systems change. How do I do it? I have no idea. And I think I think from the time I wrote that down until the time the idea hit me was, I don't know, 5 or 6 months or something. It didn't take very long.
Awesome. Thank you. One more here, and then I'm going to open it up to everyone for more questions is how can we quantify or how do we measure our impact? How do we know that we are, when we're setting ourselves to make a change in the world, how do we tell that it's working?
It's kind of a reluctant answer because I'm not really a big fan of social media. I don't love being on there very much. But for me, it's kind of what, people write reviews about my work and they write into me a lot. They share from their heart. I mean, I've had a lot of people say, thank you for making this incredible contribution to our children and to humanity. Thank you. Like they thank me. And that makes me cry a lot. I've had parents write into me saying that I had a mother say that she taught her autistic son how to read with my book. I had a mother say that, share on social media that the doctors had said that her daughter was declared legally blind. And she started picking up my book and looking at the pictures, and she realized that her daughter wasn't blind. That one really got me. So I'm just going to keep going. So how do you quantify and measure your impact? In my mind, it could be the social media followers. It could be the number on the balance sheet. That actually doesn't really motivate me. What motivates me is changing people's lives and reaching their hearts. So, even my accountant, when we did our year end this year, he's like, how did you do this? I said, I'm like, well, you can't really explain it. It's just a book. It's because it reached people's hearts. So how do I quantify impact? How many hearts have I reached? How many lives have I impacted? I will never know. I will never know how many people I've reached. I will never know how many parents sit down and read this to their children every night. I will never know that. But I do know I'm making a difference. So I'm just going to keep going. And I'm feeling very positive and inspired that humanity's coming back together. I'm an eternal optimist. So that's what I hope.
Thank you so much, Leesa. That's really incredible. I want to open the floor. If anyone has questions or comments or things that they want to share, please feel free to do so. You're welcome to unmute your mic. I'll give a couple seconds. I'm going to scroll back in the chat and find some questions I missed as well, but feel free in the meantime to unmute yourself, say hello, give a little introduction, and ask your question or give your comment.
This is Zaya. I actually just woke up before this, so I am not on screen because I look like a mess. But I just want to say thank you, thank you, thank you. I mean, it's just so touching. I left a career a few years ago and have been honestly flailing a little bit with like semi-retirement, not sure what to do with myself. I want to make an impact. And this was so inspirational. And my mom was a kindergarten teacher. So now you got me emotional. A kindergarten teacher most of her life, early education. And so I'm like, oh, maybe I can call her after and we can come up with an idea of something that would be a project together on how to impact that next generation. But anyway, long story short, thank you for the inspiration and the ideas, and showing me that, it's never too late and you can have a huge impact.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm so happy to connect with you. It's fabulous.
Thank you, everyone. I'm seeing some questions in here about the process of working with an artist on the creation of your book, if you want to speak to that. And after that, anyone else, feel free to unmute yourself as well.
Yeah, that was an interesting one. So I think there was a question too about how did you find your artist? So I'm a big fan of the gig economy. I love giving people opportunities. There's a platform called Upwork, UPWORK, and I put a post out for an illustrator, and I had about, I think it was like 80 people applied. And Daniela, my illustrator for the book, submitted her work to me. And when I saw her work, I started to cry and I went, she's the one. And Daniela is from Romania. What's really amazing is she actually was very busy at that time. And I just had this burning desire. I'd like to do these concepts. And she kind of did the book. She's like, look, I don't have a lot of time, but I'll do my best. It turned out to be an absolute masterpiece. So it was a beautiful process. It was challenging at times. I had to direct it because I wanted green juice in my book. I wanted solar panels in my book. And she was like, why do you want green juice in there? Why do you want solar panels? Like, she didn't really understand. When I think back to that, actually, she was like, I don't really understand why she wants these little things in there. But anyway, I'll draw them in. So that was kind of funny and fun and a little awkward at times because I was pretty adamant that I wanted certain pieces in the book. And then sometimes I would cry and I write her this big long note. I just had this insight, this epiphany. This is what we should do for this scene. And she'd be like, okay. So she tried to draw it to the best of her ability. And I think she did a fabulous job. So it was an interesting process, actually, when I think back. But I was also very happy that I gave her the opportunity. Now she's a wonderful artist. She's done other work and she's actually gone in a different direction. So I have found another illustrator that I'm working with now. Talk about changing lives. I found a beautiful artist in the Philippines, actually. And this next book we created together, and she said, Leesa, she goes, this is really a dream come true. Since I was a little girl, I've always wanted to write a book and I've never been able to do it till now working with you. So that's a big deal for me, getting this book out for her and for me and for the children.
Hi, Leesa.
So, hi.
Love you. Hey,
so beautiful.
Do you just pay them like a flat price, or do they get a percentage of the books from here on in, or how does that work?
Yeah, good question. I think it's different. I was kind of naive going into it. Honestly, I didn't know. I just like we just discussed, and we did a fixed price for the project, and then she gave me access to the rights. And sadly, Daniela didn't want to continue working together. She went on a different journey. She wanted to do other work, and she ended up having a child, and so it was kind of a one project for her. So it was just a straight contract. We paid, X number of dollars per illustration. So yeah, you just need to kind of negotiate, and I'm happy to share that with you. But yeah, that's how we did it. We just did a straight contract, and she was happy with that. And sometimes it could be royalty agreements or anything, things like that. And I did say that to Daniela at the beginning, is that something you wanted? She just wanted a straight contract. So that worked.
Right. Yeah. I come from a family of readers, and, like the whole Harry Potter series was read out loud for bedtime, all that
Yeah.
stuff, right? So I've always wanted to write a kid's book myself.
Amazing.
And my thing is teaching kids forgiveness.
Oh, I
Right?
love that.
Yeah,
Yes.
I got my G babies are 4 and 2, and having been born into and living in a pandemic, social skills, what are those?
Yeah.
Right? And a lot of hurt feelings all the time, right? And so I want to figure out how to teach kids,
I love
basically
it.
open out, right?
Well, you're inspiring me. I actually, one of the things I'd like to do is create a course to help people who to guide people who want to write children's books, because I do believe that a lot of us as moms, we have a desire to do this. I'm not the only one who wanted to write a children's book.
Right.
It's in us. There's a message in us as women and men. So you're inspiring me. I think I need to move that up on the agenda. We need to get this course out and support more creators, because yeah, there's, and especially too, I think what's happened with this book kind of was a breakthrough, because it was a kind of a cute little children's book, but it was disguised as a really powerful teaching tool. And that's what I'm most
Exactly.
proud of, that's what I'm most proud of. I wrote the book that I wish that I could write I could teach my children these concepts.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm looking for as well. Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, I'm happy to talk more about that with you, because yeah, I really encourage you to do it. It's
Thank you.
yeah, it'll be your legacy project. It's fabulous.
Right? Yeah.
So good.
Thank you. Kiki, I believe, has a question as well.
Well, it's a comment that leads into a question. And I mean, obviously you're one of my best friends, and I can't, I could get so emotional. You speaking so beautifully today. People don't have any idea how lucky they are to have you before them to share. As we have kind of been on this road, I appreciate how vulnerable you are discussing the challenges, because anyone can get on here and make it seem easy to do, but it hasn't been easy. It's not easy. So I want to reflect that back to everyone here as they are figuring out how do they sort of ebb and flow in the space of creating art. And we kind of get sort of jaded at times, where it's about, as creators, we start thinking, who's gonna see this? How am I gonna get compensated for this? How much is this? All of these external forces before we even really finished putting our love and our energy and attention into the work itself. Like we get sort of pulled by these external forces of monetization. Is this going to be worth it? When I really know a lot of those are fear-based energies coming towards us. So I have been, always with you through this journey. And I know I'm kind of sharing that no matter what your deal is, whatever it is you're working on, it is so important to come back to that key heart space, that reason that before any thought of selling book one was the need. Before we went to grad school, Christina, before any of us, like something drew us to these moments and these opportunities. So when it gets difficult, and the administration and the paperwork and the scheduling and the financing and all of these kind of yucky things, necessary things, beat us down and make us say, you know what, I don't even feel like doing this anymore. You can't not finish. You can't not finish. You can't. So having something connected to your child or to your that call of being a good ancestor, if you don't have, that idea that this is bigger than me. This is something, it only takes one person to see what I'm created, what I've done, and to connect with it. It only really does take one, and to know my story. I put my love in my story, my struggles, my everything that led to this moment, to pour this out to you with love, and to make that difference. We do not know as creators, as artists, who the recipients and the beneficiaries of our love and our energy and our work are going to be. We have to just trust that. We have to just trust that when we're making something, like, if your work is around, immigration or other, LGBTQ rights or this or that, whatever, someone is because someone needs that's being sent to us, and we're just a vessel, we're just a vehicle. So we have to stay the course. We have to ask the questions that making something is calling us to ask the question, how? Okay, I don't know how, but like you said, your desire was not to make a children's book. That was the how that manifested after you tried to connect with your heart. Why are you doing this? What is it? Because when we met, I always remember when we met, and we didn't even know each other. And next thing you know, we were at a conference and chatting, sitting next to each other at a conference at a table. I think it was like a breakfast. Didn't know this woman, sitting next to each other. Within 10 minutes, we were almost in tears talking about being a mom. How are we managing not feeling guilty for being away, for traveling, for working, for all these things. And you were sharing with me, because Max was very young at the time. So you're like, I've been this dynamic person, mover and shaker all these years, and now like I'm this mom. It's like, it's more to me, not that that's not amazing to be, and maybe people here don't even choose that, but like there's more, this feeling of more. So that's your purpose calling you.
Yeah.
That you are, you want to hear that still small voice of purpose. So I just feel that no matter who is on this call, I just hope you can get the bigger picture that, and by the way, not a small thing, with all of her books, she plants a tree. With all of her books, not only does she make this happen, she also plants a tree. So you could take it even a step further to, again, how can you make it about more than just you, about more than just the sell, about keeping something going, about setting up a new vision of entrepreneurship, as a means to help society move in a positive direction and not wait for the government or some other entities or nonprofits or any of these other kind of problematic entities.
Yeah.
Do so. I could just always, I could talk about this woman for hours upon end, but I just hope you could take away many of the things that she was talking about, which to me adds up to find something in your heart that you can stay with, that's gonna be that anchor, that lighthouse. Find it, and the creative force will move you. And anytime you're explaining it to someone, you will hear it, they will hear it. And that's going to guide you to the next person and the next person and the next person. It's going to say, I will help you with that mission. Like I'm on her mission. I'm going to help her. It's that big, it's that important, it's that necessary. So I just invite everyone else, like I said, to do the same. And if you ever need help in trying to, suss that out, that's what we're all here for.
Maybe I can share, Kiki. I mean, you've been my most amazing support. I just can't even speak in words. Just it's immeasurable, just the impact we've had on each other in our support. And that's, I guess, my best advice is, if you know you're a mission-driven person, you know in your heart you're on a mission, and maybe you're still getting clear on what that mission is. Surround yourself, find the support, find the mission-driven people that will support you, because it's incredibly important. And I will share. I mean, some people in my life, they go, "Oh, that's really cute. You wrote a children's book. Oh, really nice. That's great, Leesa." And I'm like, "Thank you. Thank you." Yeah, my husband and I are in massive, we've got big financial loans. We've got all this stuff going on behind the scenes, like this cute little children's book. And, Kiki has been such a support, and because we're on a mission. So I was saying before, I will go to the ends of the earth to support the Fearless Artist, because it means so much. This movement for artists is so important to the world. And so, it's essential that we find people that will support us on our mission. Whether that's a friend that you recognize, oh, wait a minute, they're on a mission too. Because I'm very lucky because I have an incredibly supportive husband. And he's also on a mission. So it's kind of easy, right? We just support each other on that. But that's very, very important, as you said, Kiki, because the road is not smooth. The road is not easy. I have cried so many times trying to build this business. I felt like this is too hard. And at the same time, I feel like those were messages. That was the universe, God, that was saying, you need to move in this direction now. So you did this part, you've established this foundation. Now you need to move in this direction. You've got to go back more grassroots. You got to go to the people. You've got to, in all honesty, you guys, another thing, I was hiding behind my book a little bit. I was hiding. I know I'm a speaker. I know I have a message. And I was like, oh, I'm a children's author now. I guess I just write this book. And then that's actually, no, that's not part of your, it's like I'm being forced right now by the universe to move into the direction of the next level of change, because that's actually what this was all about. This is just a tool for social change. So so like I said, find the support, find the people that are going to support you. The Fearless Artist is here to support you. The Fearless Artist community is incredible. And this is what the world needs right now.
Thank you so much, Leesa. I want to take a couple seconds just because I know we're a little bit past 3, just to do some quick recap announcements. My goodness, quick recap announcements, and then we'll have a minute or two just for some final concluding thoughts. Give me 1 second to pull this up here. And let's see. So remember, I'm going to pop some links in the chat here. You can find some TFA merch. Support the Fearless Artist at the link I'm throwing in the chat right here. We have some amazing upcoming events as well, in line with these, bringing in some more fantastic speakers to the Fearless Artist Circle every Sunday. So you can find those on our link tree, which is also on our bio on Instagram. So I'm going to pop that in there as well. And last but not least, if you have not given your email either through Eventbrite or sent it in the chat already, make sure to do so we can get you the free gift. That is going to be a guide all on creating the foundation for your art career and taking next steps to speak about your art and address different audiences. And we'll also, thank you, Zia, we will have a newsletter coming out soon, and we'll have some recordings available. Make sure to follow us or subscribe to us on YouTube. You can just search The Fearless Artist. So that is that. And with maybe you'll take a minute or two. If people have to jump off, that's totally okay. But one final question I have for the group is just, what is 1 or 2 things that all the artists and creatives on this call can do today to make a positive change? If anyone has any thoughts, anything you want to shout out in the chat or out loud, feel free.
Well, I would like to shout out Janelle Duncan, if she is on here. She is working on an amazing project called Living Well Black, which is about helping people of color, particularly African Americans, have access to the information they need to be healthy and live a life of self-care, well-being, and stop the cycle of generational, you know, lack of access to health and information around that subject. So I want to shout her out, and I'm a big part of her movement, and I'm really proud and excited to be invited to do that.
Beautiful.
Yes, I'm here. Had the video off. So yeah, I've been working on Living Well Black, and that I started when I was doing advocacy work and found out that there were a lot of disparities across the board for the Black community: financial, health, product safety. And I thought that there ought to be a group working on it and informing people, because I knew a lot and I knew a lot of people didn't know a lot. So yes, I wanted to do everything all at once, but the place where the organization is beginning is to, the goal is to become the go-to place for health and wellness information for the Black community. And kind of also give differential advice where there is differential advice that needs to be understood in the Black community, and for particularly for those areas where there are health disparities, identifying what they are and some strategies to kind of protect ourselves and ensure that we can get the best health care, and also give ourselves the best self-care that we can. And Kiki's been like, extremely very helpful with that. And I definitely it's kind of really helpful to hear people talk about what they're trying to do, because I kind of did it in fits and starts, because I thought it'd be easy. I didn't realize that it would, it's a lot. So I guess once I committed myself to understanding that it is a lot, then that makes it a lot easier. So I guess it's really important not to hear that people have overcome obstacles and have been frustrated and have wanted to cry. Because if you don't know that, then the minute you want to, you might want to go, okay, well, this is clearly not for me, because it makes me, because it's really frustrating. So thank you.
What you're doing is super important. So that's that thing that'll call you back. Super important.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. If anyone has any final comments, anything, any actions you're going to commit to, projects that you want to share, ideas, feel free to put that in the chat or unmute yourself. I'd love to hear what you have going on as we wrap up today.
I just want to say again, thank you, Leesa, to being that big thinker in my life, being that big dreamer in my life, to say, I'm going to tackle system. I'm going to tackle an entire industry. I'm going to be the best-selling author. I'm going to be up there with the Dr. Seuss's and the others, worldwide classic books that all children need to have. Like having someone that could speak at that level, it sets you in your own direction. It's okay to say these things. It's okay to look into the future and put yourself there. So it can sometimes not feel safe if you do not have others. Who do you think you are? Imagine, who do you think you are? You're everything. So having that be before you even do it, having someone that you can be in the presence of that does that. I just want, again, I just gotta hold you high. That's it.
Thank you, Kiki. And one final comment on that. The world needs this right now. The world needs us to be bold. It needs us to go big. It needs us, we need fundamental systems change right across the board. So go big, for me, I'll speak this into the quantum right now. I mean, I want to distribute 10 million copies of my book. I want to plant 10 million trees, and I want to donate 10 million copies to children in schools and families around the world. That's what I'm speaking into the quantum today. And, I just, like I said, there's no, don't be shy, just be bold, be big, go for it. make a dent in the universe. A positive change.
Thank you, everyone. What a wonderful, exciting note to wrap up today on. I want to thank everyone again so much for joining us on the call today for our last Artist Circle in January. Really hope to see all of you next week and every Sunday to come for more events. Thank you again to Leesa. This is so inspiring. I know I threw it in the chat, but I know I'm definitely going to do some journaling later today. So thank you so much. And I hope everyone has a fantastic rest of your day.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thank you. Have a wonderful day. Have a blessed day. Thank you so much. Awesome.
Thanks, Kiki.
Awesome. I'm about to call you.